Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, which is a discipline-focused webinar for nurse anesthesia programs on learning activities, which are evaluations, case logs, and timesheets. This is part 2 of 2, where we will give you a recap of part 1, reviewing timesheets and reporting for each learning activity. Today's presenters are Shibata Fuge, who is a Senior Product Manager, and Tanya Gupta, who is a Product Manager here at Exxat. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please add your questions in the questions box. We will be pausing periodically to ensure your questions are answered. If you'd prefer to voice your question, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll go ahead and unmute you. As usual, you can download today's presentation to follow along or keep as a reference. We have also posted part 1 if you missed the previous webinar. You can find those in the handout section. This webinar will be recorded and shared with you along with the presentation via email 1 hour after the webinar ends, and will also be made available on our YouTube channel. We're going to give folks just a couple minutes to let them get logged on and get their audio sorted. We'll give it about 1 to 2 minutes. We'll be back with you in just a few moments. All right, and without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Tanya, if you're all set, you can take it away.
Thanks, Roshi. Yeah, we can get started right away. Okay, so today webinar is mainly focused on reports. In the last webinar, we did evaluations and case logs. We'll do some recap. We will then go through the timesheet setup and how timesheet works in order to have clinical hours captured with the single CC log. And then we'll go through all the reports that are available for all the learning activities, and then we'll take your questions at the end. So let's get started. Just a small recap of what we did in last webinar. Our last webinar was a week back, where we started with evaluations. Evaluation forms can be configured based on your requirement. You can have any type of field, any workflow, and any questions getting configured here, or any assignment getting configured here with the help of account managers or CSRs you're interacting with. As soon as and all the things were clarified in the last webinar, you can check out the recording and go through the entire session to see how evaluations can be set up and how will that look like. We also covered case logs of 2 types last time. One was single CC log and another one was summary log. In single CC log, we learned that we will be one patient can be logged, one case would be logged per log, and in summary they can use it as on the daily basis or even weekly basis. As per the requirement, they can add multiple cases within one log. Today we'll be covering timesheet. Timesheet would be only used when a single CC log would be used. Because when a single patient is added, you will be adding the timesheet, based on the time that has been spent across multiple patients. But in case of summary log, you can use log itself to enter the time. So students would be just be able to add the time spent and the number of cases attended there itself. Okay, so we will go through timesheet setup and how does that work. Uh, Let me just share my screen and I'll show you the setup and how does it work. Okay, so this is how setup would look. To set up, you can coordinate with our CSRs, or you can directly come to the setup page. You would come here from courses, and after selecting your course, you will be redirected to all learning activities, and you can select timesheet. Once you select timesheet, you you are given some configuration, some settings that you can edit at your own, according to your own convenience. First is maximum hours per day. Um, this could be up to 24 hours based on how much time usually in the day you would want your students to do. This is maximum. Uh, then you will be able to specify the number of days for which students are allowed to edit past time sheets prior to approval. So let's say if I specify, I say it as yes and specify 15 days. This means they can't add timesheets older than 15 days. Allow students to enter time for the future entry. You can allow it or disable it based on your choices. You can also allow students to enter the number of patient encounters, number of the case log. It is not necessary in case of case logs because they'll be already entering that in case log itself. So you might not want to like repeat that here. Allow students to enter break time for each time entry. So if they are taking breaks, they can log their time here. If it requires faculty sign off, might not be required in case of case log, but we do have a functionality where faculty can specifically sign off. Require student to select preceptor for each time entry. You can also select whether preceptor has to approve each and every entry or not. Then you will be able to select who all would be receiving the email. It could be preceptor, placement faculty, and school. Now, as a school admin, you can also select the category here, which could be single select, multi select, or even if you don't want to do it, you can choose it as none. But in case of usually if we would prefer like you would be adding category and you would be adding what kind of time where students have spent their time, it would be easy to capture for you. It could be any research work, anything they're doing, that can be captured here. I'll show you how student would see. So when a student would come to their portal, what they would see is they would see the course details. They would see how many entries I've already added, and then they would be able to see all the data added within it. They will be able to add the time entry from here, and these would be the basic details populating based on the setup that has been done by school. So start date, let's say I entered yesterday's, and let's say I add time from 2 to 6 a.m. You can also choose to like make it overnight. So in case of overnight, uh, it will have it will not allow them to like have n number of hours if it is restricted, but you can always they can always add it from, let's say, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that's an overnight entry. They can add break time. Duration would be calculated accordingly. They can select preceptor. They can select the category you want. They can add their notes and submit this entry. As soon as the entry is submitted, this would be received by preceptor, associated faculty, or the school, based on the setup, wherever whoever you want to send it out to, and based like whosoever is receiving that entry can approve or reject the timesheet. Once they approve, these would be calculated in all the like would be reflected in all the reports. But if it is not approved, it would go back to the student, and they can still edit it. Uh, I would like to take a quick pause here before we start with reports. Any questions so far?
Not seeing any questions, Tanya.
Tania, this is Vishakha. I have a clarifying question for you, if you could
Mhm.
clarify it for all our attendees. In the
Sure.
setup of timesheet, you mentioned that our users have the option to customize whether they want to send it to the faculty for review, and there is
Mhm.
a separate bit or customization that they can do just for the faculty to receive a notification every time a timesheet is submitted. Can you clarify if both of those are related to each other or completely independent? Meaning they could choose not to have the faculty review the timesheets, but just get an email that a new timesheet was submitted by a student.
Yes, so these are totally independent. Um, they can choose any of these three options, if they want preceptor, faculty, placement faculty, or school. Um, all either or is possible, and once like they send out the email, this would be individual timesheet entry. As soon as student submits individual timesheet entry, uh, the selected people will start receiving the emails. We've also given the email template here, which would like this would include a link here. In case of preceptor, they would be able to just click on the link without logging in, be able to approve it. In case of placement faculty, they'll be receiving a separate email, and in that separate email, they can go choose to log in and then approve the timesheets.
Thank
And
you.
in case of schools, you can also enter the email address that you would want here, so that you can send it to the required person.
Got it. And then one more question is, once a timesheet is reviewed and it say it is disapproved and it's sent back to the student, how does
Hmm.
the um, how does the time window apply then? The 15-day window, if that has been set up, does it still apply to the resubmitted timesheets?
Yes, it does. Uh, Let me quickly show you that. So once it is either not approved, like if it is either in progress, pending review, or not approved, in all the three states, the timesheet can be edited, and this window would remain open. So if there was any limit, that would still apply, but let's say you had a 15-day limit. So before 15-day, you can't add, but you can still, if your window is open, you can still select the entry and submit it again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with reports. Um, for reports, we have 5 reports in case logs, um, 2 reports in timesheet, and 1 evaluation report. For case log, we have NBCRNA transcript report. This is exact replica of NBCRNA format that's required to be uploaded on NBCRNA website for submission. It can be easily like downloaded and then uploaded in the required format. Student-based report is the report where all the students are listed, and you can see the logs entered per category in each and every of them. Student cumulative report, these 2 reports, like this is one report available for both student and school login. So when we talk about student, we will have only their data visible to them. But when we talk about school, they can see it per student, but they can select any student to see this report. And site cumulative report would let you decide let you compare the sites, how many students went to which site, how many logs they are logging, and all of that. So all of this would be coming up. All 3 reports would be coming up next week, but I'll walk you through how it would look like. In case of timesheet, we have 2 reports: hours by category report. Hours by category report itself, whatever categorization student has done. So for example, they have done some research work, they spend some time with patients, so all of those would be shown in the categories, and the time would be split across these categories, so you would be easily able to compare this across the students. Weekly summary report helps in case of rotations. So when you have rotation going on for 6 weeks, you would be able to compare within a rotation. You'll be able to compare how week one was, how student was doing in week 1 to week 2 and week 3, where the students are lagging, like did they needed any assistance, what is happening weekly. So that will help in weekly data. And then we have raw data report from evaluation, where all the forms that a student has filled, any question, anything they have filled in this form would be displayed. So let's start with case logs. Let me take you to the first report, how it would look, and what it comprises of. Okay, so for this one, NBCRN transcript report, we have this report getting updated every 24 hours. You can see the time of refresh here. We have various filters where you can filter this through courses, the course names. You can filter it through rotation. You can filter it through settings, site, student, or status. Like whatever is convenient for you, whatever data you want to talk about, you can always do that. Then once you have applied the filter, you will be able to see this report. This report consists of, like for example, you have first name, last name, middle name, and IDs if available. If you enter that data in the system, that will be displayed here. So license number, expiration date, everything would be visible here. Then you have advanced psychology, patho course, like all the courses that you have taken. If your school wanted as, like if you want it as a 1 or 0, whatever is a standard of school would be shown here. Then we have clinical anesthesia cases starting from here. In case of clinical anesthesia cases, we have like whatever case logs have been added by the student would be displayed here. We also have an option to customize it, where if you want that it should be only added if patient physical status was added, then also that is something you will have to inform us in advance, and it can be customized accordingly. Your clinical anesthesia hours would be coming from anesthesia hours that students have entered, and clinical hours again would populate from the same. Similarly, you would see entire all the columns here. Either it's patient physical status columns, their totals, special cases, or general anesthesia. Everything would populate here and will tell you whether student has filled it or not. Whatever they have selected would be displayed here. Okay, so that was about NDCR and transcript report. I'm not going into the details, but if you have any questions about any particular field, how would the logic behave, how would things work, let me know. We have created this based on the standard. So everything that is there in the standard, either it's totaling up of a few fields, for example, um, patient physical status, 3 to 6 is total of 3, 4, 5, 6. All of that has been taken care of in this report. Then we have a very similar report, which is student-based report.
Tanya, before you move on, just a quick question on the previous one.
Sure.
How are we going to export that? Can you
Yes.
also show?
Sure, I'll show that. So in this report, we have a few options here. So once we click on export data, we will be able to export this. And once exported, let me just open that file. So once exported, I'll be able to see entire data set here. So all the students, all the columns, whatever you wanna look through, you want to filter, do anything else, you can do all. Filters would be mentioned here for easiness. You can see that and get to know why on what filters it was exported. Also, as we were talking about filters and exporting, you can also sort this from here itself. So when you click on any name here, let's say you want to sort it by last name, or you want to sort it by anesthesias or total cases, you can just click on this field name and you can get sorted.
Okay, so Tanya, I think we have a question from Rebecca. Does the license state and number auto-populate from the student profile?
Yes, it does. Let me show you. Yeah, so it does. I don't have a license number added for the student yet, but if you add those license numbers will be auto-populate.
Yeah, and the students generally would fill that information, correct? From the license section. Okay.
Yes. They can go to the student profile, add their licenses. We support maximum of 3 licenses. So if they have added all 3, their latest 3 licenses would show. It will have a license number, expiration date, and state. All 3 things. Okay. I'll move on to the next report. So next report we have is a student-based report. This is very similar to what we have in NBCRNA, but a little modified for daily routines, where like you should be able to compare the students, look at the data properly, and like differentiate through colors. So, and only has the data that student is filling in, no static data, no license information, no IDs. So all the case log data are presented here. So when you look at the case log data here, again, you will be able to filter class number, class name, rotation, setting, site, student, or the status. I can, if I remove, like by default it would be approved, because usually we want to send it to export the NBCRN report or look at the approved numbers here. But even if it is pending review, or if it's need attention, you can always select the status based on that. So you will be able to see data for that student. So let's say for this student, we have 14 cases, we have anesthesia time and clinical hours populating here. And similarly, we have class 1, class 2, class 3 to 6 data populating. I would not cover each and every details, but whatever, this report is not restricted to NBCRNA format. So in the previous report, you would only see the data that is required for NBCRNA. But in this report, you would see everything that you ask student to add. We spoke about this in the last webinar as well, that this is standard, so you can't really edit anything here, but you can add the fields that are required. So if you add anything, it would be like shown here, and you can compare it across students as needed. All the students would be listed here. Okay, we will move on to the next report if this is good.
Tanya, I think there is one more question or one more clarification, I think.
Sure.
So I think this is related to the student report that you have just walked through. So that does not display the required cases, which would be helpful. So Rebecca, could you please unmute yourself, and can you just clarify this question for us?
So I'll cover that if I understood the question,
Okay.
Rebecca. Thank you. So I'll show you. So this we are still working on, but we don't have it yet, right? We will have minimum required cases and preferred number of cases next week. So if you see this format, these two things are something that you will be able to see from next week. Currently, we don't have that in our system, but this is the exact format that you will see your report in. You will see you will be able to compare this, and even we will highlight if the number of cases are less than required or more than that. So it would color code these numbers into red, yellow, green as required. Does that answer your question, Rebecca? Or you can unmute and speak.
Yes, she commented perfect, and yes.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, so moving on to the next report. So we will talk about both cumulative reports now. So I spoke about this report being available on admin as well as students. So by admin, like I mean for school as well as students. So whenever report is available for school, you will have the list of all the students, where you will be able to select one of them, see the student name, and then look at the entire report for them. This way, this report would help compare minimum required cases, preferred number of cases, and total cases only for that student, so that you can focus on what is needed for the student itself. So as you can see, total number of anesthesia cases, anesthesia time, and total clinical hours, All of this would be represented here. Minimum required cases and preferred number of cases are based on latest NBCRNA format, which was released in May 2022. So some numbers have been revised, and our reports will be displaying the latest ones. Then we have, like for example, patient physical status. We will have all the statuses, like all the minimum required cases or minimum preferred number of cases written here, and whatever student is doing on the daily basis. You will be able to see this entire thing, like each and every field configured here. So whatever student is entering, everything will be calculated here, and you can keep on searching the students and look through it. Student would also see a similar view. When they would log in into the system, they would see this. They would be able to see reports only for themselves, and all the total number of anesthesia cases, total hours of anesthesia cases, total clinical hours, or their class-wise report, patient assessment report, or special cases, everything, every calculations would be like visible to them as they start. They can like compare it and decide whether they're doing good or not based on this report. Okay. Moving on to the next report. So next report we have is site cumulative report. Let me just walk you through that also. So we covered these. So site cumulative report would look like this. Again, like this would also cover every case, every hours, and all the things that student is filling. But this would be a accumulation at site level. So all the sites that we have would be listed, like whatever you have, it would be listed here, and total number of students going to that site would be listed, so that you can compare, okay, how many students are going to which site, how many cases are they doing, are these sites very productive or not, what, and like the action can be taken based on that. So, and this comparison can be done across cases, across clinical hours, across how many general anesthesia they have done, or how across how many pediatrics they have attended, anything. So any assessment, any special case, any method of anesthesia can be compared across site as well.
And
So
Tanya, one clarifying question here. So when you say across the site, right? So that means are we pulling the data across courses?
yes, we are.
Total number of students went to the site across courses?
Right. So when the school comes to this report, they will again see the same filters where they can select multiple courses, multiple rotations, multiple settings, and multiple sites. And across, they can do the comparison whether the site is doing good or not, how many students are there, and everything that we spoke about.
Okay, Tanya. Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We do have a question from Rebecca. So for instance, this would tell you how many open heart students did at X site.
Yes, that's correct, Rebecca.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the timesheet reports. So we spoke about like 2 reports that we have for timesheet, and we'll go through both of these reports. Let me just pull those. Just 1 second. Okay, so for timesheet, what I need to do is a similar thing. When I go into learning activities, I'll see report section. When I go to report section, I'll have all my reports listed here. I'll have, let's say, timesheet report here. I can select any course offering here, or I can select even multiple course offerings here. Let me just select a few. And actually, let me just select all of them. I can select up to 50, and I can then see all my rotations, all settings. These are like already selected by default. So all rotations, all settings, then status is approved. I can also select all. I can see all students here. So I'll generate the report for them. This would be a type of report that you would see where you will have details of the student, like first name, last name, sorted by last name. You can keep this sorted. You will have course number, course name, rotation, site setting, location details. So anything related to this student would be listed here. And based on this placement, you will be able to compare the time. So any category that is there, all of them, that will be populating the hours here. So let's say, for example, first approved time would be here, total time excluding breaks would be given, break time would be mentioned here, number of patient encounters if enabled would be mentioned here. Then all the categories, so clinical time, let's say, is one of the category, and you would have a time listed, and this you can always go to the setup, configure it for yourself, whatever works for your student. All of this would be listed, and at the end you would also see the total for that particular student across courses. So this row, which is bolded and selected right now, will show you okay, if even if they had done 4 courses or 10 courses, this is the total across them. And you can always click on export data, get this in an Excel format, and do any required calculations. Okay, the next report that we have is weekly summary report. So as I was talking about weekly summary report, this would be comparing the sites, comparing it will help comparison of week by week data. So let's say okay, so let's say this is our data. What we will have here is you'll be able to select one course here. You will be able to select one rotation here because you want to compare within one rotation. And you, by default, all the settings and all the status would be selected, but you can select all of them. And just one second. Yeah, once you select all of them, you will be able to see all the students within that, their setting and their location. Then you will be able to see the approved hours for that particular student within this course and rotation would be visible. And then you will be able to see like week by week comparison. So your let's say your rotation is of 6 weeks, so you will see 6 weeks comparison here. How many hours were approved in the first week, second week, third week, fourth week, and so on. Okay, so yeah, that would be timesheet reports. Now we'll move on to evaluation report. And for that, I would like to hand over this to Shubda, who will be walking you through the evaluation report.
Roshu, could you make me the presenter?
Sure thing. You should be the presenter now.
Okay. So hello everyone. So as Tanya recapped earlier, last week we went through evaluations. How do you do evaluation setup? How you review the filled up evaluations and how students fill up the evaluations as well. So today we will be going through the report that evaluations module currently provides. And I would also like to understand from you what kind of reports you would like to see in the system. So first of all, let's go through the report that is currently present. So as usual, I'm currently logged into the school login. I would first go to learning activities, then I see the reports section over here. So this basically lists out all the reports that are available for all the learning activities within Exxat. But for evaluations, you could see the report listed out as raw data report. This is one report that is provided to all the schools, no matter uh, which domain. This, as the name suggests, helps you download the responses of that the all the various actors have filled against every field in the form. Uh, but on top of it, Exat could build reports as per needs of your program and domain. As of now, for CRNA, in your default setup, this is the one report that you would be getting. But please do reach out to our team if you have any specific needs, even if you want to put it over here, and we could, take it up for development. But let's go through the raw data report first. So you could select the courses for which you want to generate the report for from here. Once you have selected the courses, you select the form for which you want to look at the report for. So last week we went through daily clinical evaluation tool. So let's select that. You could also select if you want to generate the report for a specific rotation. You could select that, or else just select all. You could filter by settings as well. And lastly, based on the status of the form, so whatever step of the workflow the form is in, you could, based on that, you could filter the report. So once you have done that, added all the filters that you need, you could still click on generate report. You do get the report on the front end on the screen within Exat. You also get an option of exporting this report. We'll go to that, but yeah. So let's go through what all we are seeing here. We see the name of the student, the details of their placement. We also see for every question what the student has responded, or in case if it is the preceptor that has to respond, what are the responses for each of the questions. So no matter what form you have set up, or no matter what form you have selected from here, based on your selection, those many columns would be generated in the report. And like I said, you could also export it to Excel, and you would basically just get a Excel dump of the report. So that's the canned report that you have, that will always come with the system. But yeah, if you have any specific needs for the report, do let us know, and we'll get that in our roadmap. So any questions you see, Roshu, on the screen?
Not seeing any questions, Shubhita.
Okay, so that's it from me. We can open up for any additional questions.
Shubda, I think there is a question.
Yes.
If your eval has a comment section, that also is included in the report. Maybe that was what
Yes.
Rebecca meant to ask.
Yes. So, so unfortunately, the forms that we filled up earlier didn't have a lot of comments, but yeah, you can see the columns over here for comments fields, and whatever you have filled in would get populated over here.
Rebecca, I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, she responded
Okay.
all good. Okay.
Okay. So overall, as well, if there are any questions based on the last webinar or this webinar, or in general, anything about learning activities, I think we have some time. So
Sure. Yeah. Anyone from the attendees would want to ask for any questions related to anesthesia program, the case logs that we showcased and the reports that we showcased today. Do you have any feedback on them, or do you have any questions to us, questions, comments? Since we have time, I think we can take some of your questions. I think Rebecca has one more question, Shubhda. So let me read it out. How long will cohort data be stored in Exxat?
you mean the past data? So if that is the case, today we do store the data as per your program needs. Exxat hasn't explicitly put a limit on how much old of an data you can store. But yeah, of course, if it is, you would need to get in touch with again your account managers to understand the complexity of getting your older data onto the system.
So Rebecca, clarifying question for you here. Do you mean to say, do you want us to move data, past data somewhere, or the data that the students are entering within Prism, how long is it staying in Prism? Can you clarify your question, please? How long in Prism? Yeah. So if the students are entering the data in Prism, it's there. We are not going to delete, or it's not going to go away. So until you use Prism, we store the data for you. But we are also working on a feature like to archive the data, so that way it does not always show up on the reports. If there are older cohorts that you just want to keep the data but not run reports on, so that is the feature we are working on. But any data that you are adding into Prism is going to stay as long as you need. Okay, any other questions? No, okay. So one call out, the case log reports that Tanya showcased today. So those are still under development. So if you are already using Prism, you might not see them because we are still working on them. But it's good to get in touch with your account manager or the CSS team member, and they will let you know when they are ready and when we can activate them for your programs.
It looks like Rebecca has a completely off-topic question. Rebecca, if you'd rather go ahead and just voice out your question, I can unmute you and you can let us know.
Yeah, I just was wondering if there was a placement light feature in Prism like there is in the old Exxat.
Yes, we do have a placement light feature. We are calling it direct placement in Prism. So the next webinar topic is about placements and placement
Perfect.
scheduling. yeah, so we will cover that in that session. But yes, we do have that feature in Prism.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I see, I don't see any other questions, so maybe we can end the webinar for today. So the next webinar, it's going to be the last topic that we are going to cover for the anesthesia program specifically, and we are going to talk about placements. But if you have other features or topics that you want us to cover for anesthesia programs, please let us know. You can respond it on the survey that Rocio sends, or you can just leave us a comment here in the question section. So we will in future also include those topics that will help you.
All right, and that brings us to the end of this webinar. If you have a few minutes, we'd love to hear from you. Stick around once this webinar ends for a short survey to let us know how we're doing, what can be improved, and any additional topics you'd like to see in the future. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.